done with violence, brother. I'm done.
And with violence, what's that supposed to mean?
It means no more hurting my fellow man.
Light 'em up!
We are talking about the movie Payback, also known as The Debt Collector 2, also known as Debt Collectors. Now, this is actually a sequel to the 2018 movie Debt Collectors, although it does play pretty much like a standalone film, and I don't think you necessarily need to see the original movie because this movie does actually do a pretty good job of standing on its own, despite the fact that it is actually a follow-on. Now, this is directed and co-written by Jesse V. Johnson and stars Scott Adkins here, both of whom who are in the movie Avengement, a film that I actually still maintain is Scott Adkins' best work to date. And here he's also joined by Mandylor and Vladimir Kulich, who both were in the original Debt Collectors movie. Now, the story here is we have Mandylor and Scott Adkins' characters are underworld debt collectors, and they have had a bad job and they were wounded and everything from the last movie we were assuming, which I haven't seen, to be honest. And they are tasked to go and do one final job for a big payday. And the crutch here is they have to collect 3 different debts from 3 separate people, each of whom, of course, don't want to pay the debt. Now, there may be a bigger conspiracy at work here that may well connect to the first movie. So we follow our pair as they squabble and fight and joke their way across the country and come into various altercations with the various clients who all owe them money, and eventually a climax at the end with maybe a bigger force. What will happen? You have to watch the movie to find out. So, as I mentioned, this is the at least some of the team here responsible for Avengement, and that was a very solid movie. In fact, I think it was one of my top 10 movies of 2019, so I had high hopes for this one. And although I don't think it's quite up there with Avengement, I've got to say this is a very good and solid action movie, martial art movie. Played a little bit differently to Avengement. Scott Adkins' character in Avengement, you really felt his pain. You felt this anger and kind of like the guy had been put down all his life and he had just kind of snapped. While Scott Adkins' character here is a lot more light-hearted, a lot more of, he's just got his, you know, he has a little bit of a bit of bad luck in all of this, but he is a pretty funny guy in a lot of scenes, and it's nice to see Scott Adkins do some sort of comedy here. In fact, there were some great lines in this movie. One line in particular, me being British, amused me at the beginning where, and Scott Adkins actually gets a lot of crap for being English throughout the movie, but there's a scene in like a bar fight at the beginning. We have a group of Americans who are essentially starting on Scott Adkins' character because he's English, and they go back to the War of Independence and all of this. Some funny lines, I've got to say. Anyway, so yeah, there are some kind of, this definitely has a bit more of a comedic edge to it, although obviously the actual action parts are, you know, taken seriously and everything. And as you'd probably expect from the team that brought you Avengement, there are some excellent fight scenes here. Jesse V. Johnson's background is through stunts, and as we've seen in the likes of kind of the John Wick movies and, you know, Extraction, there seems to be a trend now of stuntmen moving up to directors, and their end result being very well shot action, and this is no different. What's also quite fun here is because we have different characters that are owing the money, we have slightly different scenarios, and kind of, you know, we have a lady kind of mob boss, we have a biker gang, we have a guy who owns like a kind of a boxing ring, each of them presenting kind of different kind of challenges, which I thought was quite fun. And obviously we have our kind of like climactic violent fight at the end. I did enjoy some of the kind of the interactions between Adkins and that Mandylor's characters. And it almost fed into what you'd imagine kind of Tarantino-esque style dialogue, where our characters are just talking about different things, And it almost goes somewhat meta at times, where we have a character say, oh, weren't you in that movie called Ninja? And Scott Adkins was in a movie called Ninja, but they're actually talking to Louis Mandylor. And things like this. And there's a scene, for example, where Scott Adkins is talking about his penis size and all of this. And it's just like these kind of throwaway little sort of lines of dialogue that kind of plus the film and, you know, just make it seem that much more relatable. And I always think in when you're watching sort of drama and stuff, and you see characters always talking about things that are legitimately to do with the plot. And I think of when I'm out with my friends and stuff, we don't, you know, we talk about all sorts of stuff. And it always struck me, especially in things like soap operas, where no one ever really just has sort of banal conversation. And it's nice to see that we do have some conversation about this, but it's still not pad out the kind of the story in the fact that it seems to be wasting time, and the story's not going anywhere. So it's a fine balance, and I think this movie does do it. And I think Scott Adkins is pretty good in this role, I must say. You know, he impressed me with Avengement, and he's impressed me with here. They're still violent, but a different sort of style character. However, I've got to say, Louis Mandylor was the weak link here for me. He seems to be doing his best, like a bada bing, bada boom style kind of accent here, if you kind of know what I mean. And it just seems a little silly, to be honest. And, you know, I think this guy maybe not should dye his hair anymore. He's obviously doing it to hide his bald patch, and it just kind of looks, give it up, mate. You know, just shave your head. Trust me, I've been there. But, you know, it's just, I don't know. To me, Louis Mandylor, although he does have some funny lines, I don't know, his character just was a little bit too silly and OTT in a lot of ways, to be honest with you. The other thing I felt this movie let itself down was the final climax, the climactic conflict. I don't want to tell you the circumstances of what leads up to it, but as concise and well shot the action scenes were to before this one really lets itself down. Less of a martial arts battle, more a shootout. We just have characters seemingly standing up in open view, firing guns, not taking cover, just waiting to get shot, things like this. And then we actually move out of the conflict before it's actually resolved. And we don't really see who is left, shall we say. And we have a surprise entry, shall we say, in the final conflict. And it just seems that this person has let some more of their employees take the fall. It just didn't really make a lot of sense to me, that final kind of conflict. Again, I don't want to sort of spoil it for you because it's a new film. But yeah, to me, the end conflict was quite weak, if I'm being completely honest. So, you know, this is still a good, above average action movie. You don't have to watch the original Debt Collectors. I think this is why they've called it Payback. Certainly in some territories, because it can stand on its own, and I understood it fine without ever watching any of the previous movie. I don't think it's quite as good as Avengement, but it's certainly one of Scott Adkins' better movies. And Jesse V. Johnson, I think, is definitely on his way to becoming a very, very competent director here. So 7 out of 10, have you seen it? What did you think of it? Leave me a comment and I shall look forward to seeing you next time. Bye for now.